Hello there, Stampers. Happy Friday. Welcome to this week's Facebook Live. I'm excited to be back after being gone for a couple weeks. So today I'm kicking off a new series focused on patterned paper. So last month, I did a series focused on using stencils and different ways that you can use them. And this month I decided to carry on with the whole series theme. I find it easier to plan. And since we've got a designer series paper sale, I thought I would do a series on ways to use patterned paper. So welcome. My name is Sherry Roth. I'm a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from Sherwood Park, Alberta. And I go live most Fridays at 9:30 a.m. Mountain Time. All right. So I just updated my iPad. Okay, so let's talk about what is happening because there's lots going on right now. We just started the month of June and there are two great new promotions. One of them, as I mentioned, is the designer series paper sale, which Stampin' Up! Has a selection of patterned papers on sale for 15% off. So it's not all of the patterned papers, but there are several, most of the ones that are $17 in the annual catalog, plus the Hello Irresistible Online Exclusives pattern paper, which is a beautiful pattern paper. So there's several of them, not all of the $17 papers. So you will want to make reference to this or check my online store to find out which pattern papers are on sale. All right. So all month long, I'm going to be focusing on different ways to use pattern papers, whether you want to pick up a few that you've had your eye on while they're on sale, or if you want to use up pattern papers that are in your stash. I'm going to try to focus all of my blog content, my social media content, all of it, all around pattern paper. I'm going to do my best. I can't promise that every single one, but different ways to use up that pattern paper because we all have a ton of it, or not even to necessarily use it up, but just to try different things with it. All right, so you can look forward to that. Next up, we have a starter kit sale. So the starter kit, I always mention, is a great deal. It doesn't matter when you purchase it. It's always the best deal in the catalog because you get to choose lots of product and spend less. So during the month of June, so from June 1st to 30th, the Starter Kit Plus promotion allows you to purchase the starter kit. You get to choose $206 worth of product and you only pay $135, and there's no shipping and there's no tax on that. So that $206 can be annual catalog product, clearance rack product. It can be some of the pattern paper that's on sale. It can be online exclusives or any combination of those items. So it's a fabulous deal. And with the annual catalog only a month old and a color refresh, there are likely lots of items on your wish list. So the starter kit is a great deal, a great way to get additional supplies at a discount because once you purchase the starter kit, you get to enjoy 20 to 25% off of your purchases. All right, so if you have any questions about that and what it entails, please feel free to reach out. I'm happy to answer any of your questions, and I'd love to have you join the Treasure Stampers team. We are a Canada-wide team, and actually we have our team meeting tomorrow morning. We do a virtual team meeting the first Saturday of every month. All right. Okay, so today we are going to play with some pattern paper, and I chose to use the Let's Go Fishing patterned paper. You can find this paper as part of the Let's Go Fishing suite on page 78 and 79 of the annual catalog, and I'm just going to do a quick flip through. This is one of the papers that's on sale. So of course, one of the things that you can do with pattern paper is you can cut out images or die cut images. So there is a die that coordinates with some of these fish. So this one here will cut out this fish here. Okay, so that shaped fish. The rest do need to be fussy cut. And then here's the back side. Love me some plaid. Here's a fly fishing one and a diagonal stripe. Diagonal stripe is always good. Another fly fishing one a little bit more colorful. and then plaid on the back. And then we've got some water themes. And then this is kind of like an underwater map. And then we've got some fishing rods, and then a net pattern, and then another fish pattern, and a blue wood grain. So lots of great patterns. And one of the things that I love about this paper pack is that one side is fishing themed, but then the other side, the back side, is something a little bit more generic. And these patterns and colors lend themselves really, really well to masculine cards. All right. So even if you don't have people who are fishers, fisher people in your lives, this paper can still work. Just use the back side. All right. So that's the paper we're going to use on all 3 projects that I'm sharing today. And let me share the rest of the suite for you. So it also has a bundle. It's called the Gone Fishing Bundle. You can see that there's some fish in here. There's some lures. There's some buoys, and then some great greetings. So Father's Day, so glad that you're my dad. Happy retirement, congrats, and good things come to those who wait. Now keep in mind that the cards that I make today, you can always switch out the greetings. So if you don't have a need for a Father's Day card or a retirement card, you could always switch those to birthday or thinking of you. And then there's this great die set, which has kind of this fun tackle box, and then all the things that you would include in the tackle box. This great water die or wave kind of die. So fun. And then the last thing that is part of this suite is the Twisted Rope 3D embossing folder, which we're going to use today. All right. Okay. Now, before I get into the projects, I wanted to share this month's class to go. It will release later on today, but I'm going to give you a peek at 3 of the cards. So we are featuring, yes, you guessed it, the Gone Fishing Bundle. So the class to go will include, sorry, I'm just reaching, half a package of this Let's Go Fishing DSP, a package of the Rustic Metallic Dots, a package of the Baker's Twine Essential Pack, which includes 5 different colors. I don't have white and vanilla with me. But you get 5 different colors of twine, and then the card kits to create 6 cards featuring this fabulous bundle. The cost of the class is $45 plus $5 shipping if it needs to be shipped. I can ship anywhere in Canada for just $5. Just a note that if you do require shipping, the DSP will be cut down to 6 by 12 just to save on shipping. Okay. Now, if you don't already own this bundle, you can choose the I Want It All option and purchase the suite for $99 plus shipping and taxes. And I will send you the card kits and the tutorial absolutely free as a thank you. All right. If you are our Treasure Stamper team member, then you can request the kits for just $15. And of course, if you are out of town or out of country and would like to participate in the class, you can purchase the tutorial only. And I will have links to where you can find all of that information a little bit later on today. I'll come back and I'll edit this description and post it on there. All right. Okay. Oh, and I wanted to share a little peek at those projects. So let me just slide this stuff out of the way. Okay. So I've got a peek at 3 different cards. So we've got, oh, let's turn it the right way around. That one, we've got a retirement card, but remember, you can change out the greetings. You can even change out the DSP. We've got a Father's Day. So again, if you don't need a Father's Day card, change out the greeting, and maybe you're, you don't need fly fishing. You don't want fly fishing. Just switch it over and use the other side. So some great options there. All right. So all 6 cards that we're creating in this month's class to go are great for the men in your life. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Now let's talk about patterned paper. Patterned paper, we all use it as paper crafters a lot. You can use it, it can make creating a card or a project so simple because there are so many great, fabulous patterns. And a lot of times we don't do anything apart from applying it to our card base and then adding a focal point. But there are lots of things that you can do to pattern paper to kind of step it up and to give it a little bit extra. So I was thinking, okay, what kinds of things can you do with pattern paper? And really, you can do anything that with pattern paper that you can do with cardstock. So you can stamp on it, you can color it, you can emboss it, you can distress it, you can splatter it, you can die cut it, you can do all of those things. And I know I'm guilty. I will keep it as is, or I might die cut a shape out of it. But that's usually all I do. I tend not, sometimes I'll distress it, but not much more than that. So this whole DSP series is going to challenge me to get a bit more creative using my DSP. All right, so I've got a piece of that Let's Go Fishing DSP, this one here, and I'm going to use the Twisted Rope embossing folder, and I'm going to emboss it. Okay, let me bring in my machine here. This is a 3D embossing folder, so I am using my platform number 1, and then I'm putting my embossing folder onto it with the seam first, or the fold first. And then I've got my platform number, what number is this? 4 on top of that. So the gray platform goes over top. So that's the sandwich layer for a 3D embossing folder. Okay, so now we've got a piece of pattern paper that has this beautiful twisted rope texture to it. So not only does it have a subtle pattern, but it also has a beautiful texture. And then you can use either side. So here we've got the waves and it's got some texture. It's not quite as noticeable on this. So that's another thing to keep in mind when you're embossing. It will show up differently on different patterned papers. Okay, so I've got this. Now, some of the other things that you can do with this is you can also add some ink to it. So whether you decide to stamp on it, do some ink blending on it, or splatter it, or even take an ink pad and just gently do direct to paper. This is something that I have not done in a long time. So, and that just highlights some of that embossed pattern. Okay, so that's another thing that you can do with it. And then, like I said, you can distress it. So I'm just going to use my paper snips and go around the edges. And you can distress it. All right. So here is a card that I created using that piece there. So you can see that I've got this piece just like it is, distressed on all 4 sides, added that to a piece of pebbled path and then onto a piece of wild wheat. And then here, I don't know if I bring this up a little closer, if you can see this gray in behind here. This is some of our, now I'm not going to remember what it's called. It's the In Color, I'm going to have to check the name. It's got a bit of shimmer to it. So it's not showing up on camera, but trust me, it's got a little bit of shimmer. It's not sparkly, but it does have a bit of shimmer. It is called, got my package right here, Luster Specialty Paper. So I die cut this gray bit from the Wanted to Say dies, which are some dies from the annual catalog. So this bit here is the gray bit, and then the Happy Birthday from some wild wheat. And then I added a lure and a buoy, some twine, and some of those metallic dots. All right, so that is card number 1. Now the other thing that you can do is you can also splatter. So what I wanted to do for this next project is I was going to be using the fish. I'm just grabbing a scrap piece of paper here. So So I wanted to add something that kind of looked like bubbles to it. And I thought, okay, let's try Wink of Stella. So you can splatter on it. You can splatter all the same ways. You can use your ink, you can use your Stampin' Blends, which I often like to use, but you can also use your Wink of Stella. So I've got clear Wink of Stella. I'm just gonna squeeze it to get some of the ink down at the end, and then I'm gonna splatter. So I like to use my bone folder and just tap. I need to squeeze a little bit more. I think I need a new Wink of Stella. I don't think I have a lot left in here. There we go. Okay, now I know this is not gonna show up very well on camera, but you can see the splatter is kind of around the edges there. And there is just a little bit of shimmer and sparkle, and you know, water has that little bit of sparkle to it, right? So I thought that that would be a nice touch. So that's another thing that you can do with your DSP. And let me share the finished card. So here I've got, again, I've embossed it. I've distressed the edges. I've got my splatter with my Wink of Stella, which kind of looks like bubbles from the fish. And then another thing I wanted to point out, let me grab my catalog. So there were some dies. I don't know if anybody else has this problem, but occasionally when I purchase a die set, I wonder what a specific die is for. So in the Gone Fishing dies, there was this and these two pieces, which I had no idea. There were no stamped images that coordinate with them. I just didn't have a clue what they were used for. And then when you look at this samples in the catalog on page 78, right here, it shows you exactly what they're used for. So if you're ever wondering what a die is used for in a die set, go back to the catalog and look closely at the samples that are in the catalog, because oftentimes you'll find the answer there. All right, so that's where I got the idea to add this to the top, and then of course I've die cut and fussy cut some of the fish from the patterned paper. Another thing I want to point out is on your patterned paper, don't discount the images that are cut off, so around the edges, because those are great. All of these, this one was cut off here, this one was cut off here, this one is cut off at the top because they were around the edges of the patterned paper. But I just strategically placed them so that they would work on the card, and you'd never know. They look like they were intentionally cut off. And then here is the inside of this card. Okay, so that is card number 2. And then card number 3, this one I'm actually gonna make. Okay, so we're gonna do a great technique that you can use with your paper scraps. Okay, so I have got a piece of copy paper. This measures 3.5 by 3.5, I believe. Yeah, 3.5 by 3.5. And I've got a piece of adhesive sheet that is just slightly smaller. So I like to cut my adhesive sheets so that they're a little bit smaller, so I have a little bit of border around the edges, so that when I die cut an image, it's not hanging off the edge and it doesn't make my plates sticky. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and adhere this. So these adhesive sheets are sticky on both sides. I'm just gonna peel off the one side first. So, and I'm using copy paper because I plan on adding a layer of some DSP on top and then die cutting it. You can use cardstock, but it's gonna get fully covered, and that just adds a little bit of extra thickness, and I don't want to apply too much pressure to my dies. So I'm just gonna use a piece of DSP for this. All right, so now I have some 1/2 inch strips of some of that Let's Go Fishing DSP. And we're gonna use that to cover this entire piece. So first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna peel back that backing. So now it's sticky on the top. And that's the thing, when you do use copy paper, it is a bit more flimsy than cardstock. Okay, let's start. We're gonna start with this one, and I'm gonna put it right across the bottom. Again, you wanna make sure that you cover all of this. And I'm just going to layer this all the way up here. I'm gonna butt them up right up against each other. Just like this, and I'm just gonna keep going until this entire surface is covered. Oh, we got a little bit showing here. I don't know if that's gonna come off. Okay, I'll deal with that at the end. All right, let's do this one next. And then we'll do this one again. And we'll finish off with this one. All right, so I have a little bit here. Actually, you know what? It's not sticky. I don't think it is. Oh, it is a little bit. I'm just gonna put that in there. I know it doesn't match, but here is what I'm gonna do next, and I'll tell you why it's not gonna matter, because it's such a little bit. I'm gonna take my Stylish Shapes dies. I'm gonna take the largest circle, and I am going to die cut a circle from this so that I have this circle shape with all of these different patterns on it. Okay, so I'm gonna bring back my die cutting machine. Move this out of the way. All right. So I'm just gonna slide this over so that I make sure that I'm not cutting that little bit off. The reason I covered that is because, again, I don't want any adhesive showing that will get stuck onto my top cutting plate and then cause me some issues down the road. Okay, get that out of the way. All right, so now I have this fabulous patterned circle. Isn't that a great way to use up those strips that we always seem to have endless amounts of? So a great way to use up your scrap papers. All right, now we are gonna do a little bit of stamping here. I've got a scrap piece of vanilla and a circle. This is the third smallest Stylish Shapes circle that I'm using here. And I'm gonna stamp my greeting. So I'm making this a Father's Day card, but again, if you don't need a Father's Day card, just change up the greeting, make it a birthday, make it a thinking of you, make it thank you, and you've got a great card, a great masculine card. So I'm just gonna stamp that. I'm using some Pebbled Path ink. And then I'm also going to stamp on the inside. I'm gonna stamp, so glad that you're my dad. Okay. And we're gonna stamp one more thing. So I've got this lure. I had to get somebody to tell me how to say that word. I was struggling it yesterday when I was doing my team Facebook Live. I was showing them a couple things and I'm using this set and I was struggling with how to pronounce that word. So, but somebody spelt it out for me, like exactly how it sounds. And yes, now I know how to say it. Isn't that weird how you come across words that just you struggle with? And it's just so simple. It's a 4-letter word, really. Okay, so I am using Pebbled Path, a Stampin' Right marker. I'm using the brush tip. Let me put this on here. I'm using the brush tip, and you can see that I'm doing it at quite an angle. I'm not doing it up like this because that will affect the tip of my marker. I'm kind of inking it with the side of the marker. So I'm going to ink up just the one side, the part with the, I think it's the part with the hook. Actually, I don't think it has a hook. might just be, well, I'm inking up part of it. Okay, yeah, actually it is a hook. And then I'm gonna bring in some basic gray and ink up the other side, just so that there's a little bit of contrast in color, but it's a subtle contrast. I'm gonna huff on this and then stamp it down on some vanilla cardstock. All right, now I'm gonna pull out the coordinating die from the Gone Fishing dies. So I've got this die here, and we are gonna bring back our Stampin' Cut and Emboss because we are gonna do some embossing and some die cutting. So let's start with the die cutting since it's set up to die cut. All right, so I'm gonna position this on here and feed it through. And then we've got a beautiful die cut image. I'll pop that back on here so I don't lose it. And we can set these aside, and then we're gonna bring in the same two platforms we used last time when we embossed, because I've got a layer of pebbled path cardstock that I'm going to emboss. I'm just gonna slide that in there and run that through. And then I believe we have all the pieces that we need to assemble our card. All right, there we go. Okay, so let's see here. That's right, Lori. Lori suggested that you keep the negative space from after die cutting your circle and using that on a different project. That's putting everything to use, right? All right, so I've got my gray here. I'm gonna distress this a little bit. So this is a pebbled path card base. We're doing just a standard size card base. I love this distressing technique. I find that I go through phases. There's a few techniques that I turn to often. Splattering and distressing right now are my two favorite techniques. I do them on so many cards. But I'm sure I'll discover something different or revisit something different soon enough, and that will change. All right, now we're going to use some multi-purpose glue and add that around the edges. I'm really generous when I apply an embossed piece to my cardstock. I'm a little bit more generous. This glue is really, really good. And you normally don't need a lot, but because this has texture to it, I like it to sit nice and flat around the edges. So I add a little bit more adhesive than normal. All right, so there is our base. Let's go ahead and add our inside piece. Now, if I had any more of those scraps left, I'll show you what I did on my first sample. I actually just cut just enough for this one, so I didn't have any left, but on this sample, what I did was I used a couple of those leftover strips and added them to the top. All right, so we've got that, and why is this not sticky? Oh, there we go, okay. All right, now we're gonna adhere. This is the second largest stylish shaped circle that I've die cut from some wild wheat cardstock. And again, this is going to be stuck on top of that embossed layer, so a little bit more generous with the adhesive. That's gonna go on there like that. And then we're gonna add this layer. Again, being a little bit more generous. This is gonna go on top like this. And because this is straight across, I'm gonna make sure it's straight. If you didn't want to, then I would purposely put it at an angle, not a slight angle, but a harsh angle. But I want it to be straight. Okay, And then we're gonna take our greeting and a little bit of seal adhesive. I'm gonna put a little bit of seal adhesive on the back, and then I'm gonna take some fine black thread. So this is a little bit finer than our baker's twine, but if you don't have any thread, you could easily just separate some of the fibers from our black baker's twine. So I'm just kind of doing a figure 8. It's a bit curly. Let's see, we'll trim this. And I did it backwards. I always do that when I'm trying to do it in one direction. That's okay, it'll still work going this way. No, you know what? I'm gonna switch it. I'm just gonna peel this off. We'll make it a little bit messier. Let me flip it over. All right, there we go. So I wanted it to go this way, and when I put it down, it went this way. And I even tried to think it through too. That always happens, right? All right, now I'm gonna use some dimensionals and we'll pop this up. This can also serve as holding your, these are pretty small, holding your twine in place, although it will hold in place quite well with the seal adhesive as well. Okay, so this is gonna go on here like this. I do wanna make sure that I have enough room to add my lure without it hanging off the edge. Make sure it's straight. Okay, and then I'm gonna use a dimensional. Pop that right on here. And then the last thing is just to add some of our rustic metallic dots. So we'll do a big one and then a small one and maybe another big one up here. And there we go. We've got another great card using that Let's Go Fishing bundle. So let me bring back all of the cards that I shared today. So we've got this one. So we've got a square card where we've embossed, we've distressed, and we've done direct to paper. We've got this one where we embossed, we distressed, and we splattered. And then we've got this one where we use some strips to create our own little patterned paper. So 3 great ideas using the Let's Go Fishing suite of products. Another thing that you can do with your envelopes or with your DSP is you can use them to decorate your envelopes or create your own envelopes. So this one is meant to go with this card here. All right, so I hope that gave you a few ideas on how you can use your patterned paper. I've got lots more to come over the course of the month, so make sure that you follow me on all the social medias so that you don't miss out on any of the great inspiration that I share. All right, and then one last thing, don't forget to register for this month's Class to Go featuring the Gone Fishing bundle. Registration will close on June 11th, and like I said, I will put in the description a little bit or a link to more details. All right, thanks so much for watching, guys. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next week.